Good morning. Welcome to a summer online worship at the First Unitarian Church of Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Jay Lavelle, a member of the church and the summer worship coordinator. Our service leader this morning is Suzanne Westbrook. Our musician is Carrick McCullough, and Darren Belanger is our technical director. It is wonderful to have all of you who are worshiping with us this morning. Here at First Unitarian Church, we strive in loving fellowship to honor the sacred, connect with each other, and serve justice. We are a welcoming congregation. Whatever your age, race, class, nationality, sexual orientation, or gender identity, we are delighted to have you with us this morning. We are thinking of all of you with love and affection during this difficult time when we cannot be together in person. You can stay connected to the church through our website, firstunitarian.com, our Facebook page, and our newsletter. If you would like to receive our e-newsletter, please go to firstunitarian.com and click subscribe to our newsletter at the bottom of any page. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. In the spirit of love, we light this chalice. Together, we join in renewing the covenant of the church. In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all.
The common prayer this morning is, we belong to the earth. This we know. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know. All things are connected like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. In our sacred time together, we share the joys and sorrows of our church with one another. This morning, I would like us to hold in memory John Lewis, who died this weekend, considering his impact from the early 1960s in the civil rights movement and in all that he did in the legislature for all of the years that he was there. Let's remember him, his legacy of fighting injustice. Let's remember his family, all those who are mourning him today. I would like to remember my friend Suzanne, who is battling cancer and who may go on hospice soon. We pray for her well-being, knowing that healing takes place in many different ways, not just a cure of cancer. May we hold all who are struggling at this time with the effects of COVID-19. People who are struggling with illness, with loss that encompasses not just life, but financial losses. All of the heavy burdens that people carry, some of which they share and many which they don't. And so may we have an open-hearted response to their suffering. Please continue your own thoughts and prayers in silence. In our time of prayer and meditation, we reach out to one another in companionship as we say together the prayer of Jesus. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. First reading is from Matthew, a familiar one to many of you, I'm sure. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. First Unitarian Church relies on your financial support to maintain our diversity of ministries and programs. If you would like to support all that we do as a church, you can text 844-906-2338, followed by the amount that you wish to donate to First Unitarian. You can also go to thefirstyunitarian.com and click Give Online at the top of the page. I invite your generous contributions for the good work of First Unitarian Church. Our second reading is from May Sarton. Everything that slows us down and forces patience, everything that sets us back into the slow circles of nature is a help. Gardening is an instrument of grace. So I put down my roots in Massachusetts 31 years ago. For the first time, I had an outdoor garden. I wanted that garden to reflect my intentional roots that went back through my paternal ancestors. And so I planted perennials, trees, and bushes, a number of them from friends, and a number of them more than 50 years in legacy in their own gardens. As you may know, perennials set deep roots and can remain nourished despite drought or too much rain, neglect, or too much overzealous attention. Being a beginner at this gardening thing, I needed as much forgiveness as I could get from my plants and also from myself. I was practicing medicine back then, newly married, in the process of adopting our first child. And of course, we just moved. All of us stressed me out absolutely, completely. I took refuge in the garden. I let myself make a home there and let myself relax into the dirt. I cultivated a refuge. Everywhere else I was expected to have the answers, to know just what was able to be done. I was trying to be presentable to everyone, including the adoption social workers who visited regularly. I wanted to be patient, I wanted to be right, I wanted to make a good medical practice, be a good wife, be a good mother. Well, in my garden at least, I could experiment. I could allow myself to be a beginner. I could make mistakes without major consequences. I could do things at the spur of the moment that might turn out well and that might not. But all of it was not terribly consequential. I could be intimately present every moment to the changing seasons, to the changing needs of the plants and the trees, the insects and animals that lived in my garden and that came through, and also to be present to my own need for quiet and contemplation. So as I did this, I began to notice all kinds of things about the natural world that, growing up in the concrete city of Brooklyn, I'd kind of missed. I noticed all kinds of things about the natural world, about myself and my fellow creatures. This was in stark contrast to my regular life. It is very hard to notice anything when you're stressed. One's perspective is narrowed dramatically. As Melanie Beattie says, I have never seen an instance when freaking out has made anything better. No, I didn't hear that advice. I did regular freakouts, I'm afraid. But not in the garden. In the garden, I could slow down. I could work really hard, and I could let go of expectations on good days. I could see my own life with more clarity and more expansiveness. Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Over the years, I've experienced a lot of change and many losses, as we all have. I've had some practice with dealing with losses in the garden. I've lost trees to Dutch elm disease. I've lost perennials, trees, and open land directly next to me due to construction next door. And in addition, I lost the beloved neighbors as well. Deer and bunnies ate the leaves on my hostas and phlox. Trees grew, sun was obstructed because of the growth of trees, and then the plants needed to be moved or they withered without enough light. Spring arrived earlier and earlier due to climate change. Winters were milder. Rain came in downpours, washing away all the carefully arranged mulch. Long periods of drought were more common. So my efforts were aimed at cultivating a garden that was resilient, that could withstand constant change and even injury. I was teaching myself to become resilient too, allowing grace to work on me, allowing myself to be changed, to consider new perspectives, to enlarge my own perspectives. In addition to the garden being a place of contemplation, it's a community. It takes a lot of cooperation to cultivate a resilient space. Trees communicate. They can keep one another alive from attacks from insects. They communicate through the fungal roots that they have and through chemical signals from one tree to another. They even nourish fallen members of the community with sugars from their own supply. Ants work cooperatively too to share food, protect their young, as I could see on a regular basis as I lifted up my rocks obtained from beachcombing. Birds carry away sticks for their nests. They fluff up the mulch. They beautify the garden, especially the hummingbirds, the robins, and the cardinals. Bees pollinate. Chipmunks aerate hardened dirt, and they sometimes damage perennial roots. Worms digest and filter the soil. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. Sarton says that gardening is an instrument of grace, and Lamott shares the insight that grace never leaves us where it found us. It has certainly been true for me. Responding to grace requires us to let go of control. And as humans, we are a little wary and sometimes very wary of letting go of control, even though control is really an illusion. The grace to be found in the garden arrives suddenly or sometimes slowly over long periods of time. The solace we can receive from dirt and growing things is palpable. We are part of the natural world. We belong. There are also very real dangers inherent in gardening, at least for those of us who throw ourselves pretty fully into it. I tore my rotator cuff gardening, needed surgery, had to be out of work, long recovery. I developed neurological Lyme disease, which was awful. Contracted undoubtedly from one of the resident ticks. And it took a long time to recover from this disabling illness, and it took skilled treatment. I have required early on in my gardening career long courses of steroids to treat poison ivy head to toe. I've also been covered from head to toe in angry yellow jackets. So, what are the graces, the lessons that we might receive from gardening? How can we nurture resilience using the idea of garden as metaphor? Number one, perfection is not possible. We do the best we can with what we know and who we are. I thought Pachysandra was beautiful. I still do. However, Pachysandra left unchecked strangles everything in its path. I've been laboring for months to pull it out, although it seemed like a good idea at the time. Number two, hard physical work is rewarding no matter the outcome. Refer back to number one. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't. Number 3, growing things enlarges our perspective. Worms and insects aren't the enemy. There is such a thing as too much rain, and certainly not enough as well. We can make mistakes, and we can correct many of them. Number 4, so many of the events in our lives are out of our control. We don't like it, but it is a fundamental law of nature, and we are subject to nature. Number 5, change is a constant, and we must cultivate resilience if we are to flourish. We are currently facing one of the biggest challenges that the world has ever encountered in COVID-19. We can go deeper into our well, ask for help, recognize and nurture community, practice gratitude for what we have, and assist those who are struggling. Number 6, there are very real hazards in the garden and in this life. Poison ivy's no fun. Getting Lyme disease is dangerous. The hazards don't keep me from working in the garden. I take precautions, but mostly what I do is remain awake and aware, present to everything that's happening around me. As it turns out, this is a very valuable skill living in the middle of a pandemic. Number 7, gardening is a series of losses set against a few triumphs, as Sarton says, kind of like life, especially this year. Number 8, pruning is absolutely necessary. I hate it. I want to preserve those stalks and branches, but for any plant or any life to survive, it needs to be tenderly cut back. Gardening is a process of learning about the interdependence of all things, just as we are interdependent with one another. You must have noticed over the last 4 months that your life could not continue with any degree of normalcy or comfort without the contributions of many others to keep you safe and fed and clothed. The Dalai Lama points out, interdependence is a fundamental law of nature. Even tiny insects survive by mutual cooperation based on innate recognition of their interconnectedness. It is because of our own human need for love that lies at the very foundation of our existence. We are dependent on the help of others. Therefore, we need a genuine sense of responsibility and a sincere concern for the welfare of others. Plant your rose straight and long, season with a prayer and song. Mother Earth will make you strong if you give her loving care. Can we let that be our intention for this week? To offer loving care wherever we are, to all that we meet, especially our own dear hearts. I want to end as we began with Sarton's words. Help us to be ever faithful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness, nothing comes to birth, and without light, nothing flowers. Thank you for your kind attention. Go forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the afflicted. Honor everyone. Love and serve the holy, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit forever. Amen.